What if I told you that rewarding your kids every time they do something good is actually destroying their natural motivation? Sounds crazy, right? But here's what shocked me. Japanese parents rarely use reward systems. No sticker charts, no allowance for chores, no prizes for good grades. And yet, Japanese children consistently rank among the most disciplined, motivated, and academically successful in the world. How is this even possible? Stay with me because what I'm about to reveal will completely transform how you think about raising motivated kids. The secret isn't about giving more, it's about giving differently. And the science behind this ancient approach? It's absolutely mind-blowing. The reward trap we've all fallen into. Let's be honest, most of us have been there. Your kid finally cleans their room, so you hand them $5. They get an A on a test, you promise them that new video game. It feels right, doesn't it? You're reinforcing good behavior, just like every parenting book tells you to do. But here's the problem. We've turned childhood into a transaction. Research from Stanford University found that children who are regularly rewarded for tasks they initially enjoyed become less interested in those activities over time. It's called the over-justification effect, and it's destroying intrinsic motivation in millions of kids worldwide. When you pay a child to read, reading stops being fun. It becomes a job. When you reward them for helping around the house, kindness becomes a business deal. The shocking truth, every time you reward a behavior, you're teaching your child to ask, "What's in it for me?" instead of, "Is this the right thing to do?" Japanese parents understood this centuries before Western psychology caught up. In traditional Japanese homes, you won't find elaborate reward charts on the refrigerator. You won't hear parents bribing kids with dessert to finish their vegetables. Instead, there's something far more powerful at work. A cultural philosophy that treats motivation as something you nurture from within, not something you manufacture with external prizes. But wait, you're probably thinking, if I don't reward my kids, won't they just stop trying? That's exactly what I thought too. And that's where the Japanese method gets really interesting. The philosophy of Atarimae, when good behavior is simply expected. In Japanese culture, there's a concept called Atarimae. It roughly translates to naturally expected or a matter of course. It's the idea that certain behaviors don't deserve special recognition because they're simply normal. Cleaning up after yourself? Atarimae. Being respectful to elders? Atarimae. Doing your homework? Atarimae. Helping your family? Atarimae. I know what you're thinking. That sounds harsh. But here's what's fascinating. When children grow up with Atarimae, they develop an internal compass for right and wrong that doesn't depend on external validation. See. They clean their room not because they'll get rewarded, but because a clean room is simply how things should be. Let me give you a real example. In Japanese elementary schools, there are no janitors. The kids clean the school themselves. Toilets, hallways, classrooms, everything. And they don't get paid. They don't earn points. They don't even get praised most of the time. Why? Because taking care of your shared space is Atarimae. It's teaching responsibility without the transaction. Compare this to Western classrooms where kids get gold stars for sitting quietly, or tickets they can exchange for prizes. We've created systems where kids are constantly asking, "What do I get?" Japanese kids are asking a different question. What needs to be done? Key insight. When you stop rewarding basic expectations, children start internalizing values instead of performing for prizes. But here's the really crazy part, and this is where most parents get confused. The difference between recognition and reward. This changes everything. Now, before you think Japanese parents are cold and unappreciative, let me clear something up. Japanese parents absolutely acknowledge their children's efforts, but there's a crucial difference between recognition and reward. And understanding this distinction is game-changing. A reward is transactional. You did X, so you get Y. Recognition is relational. I see your effort, and I value who you're becoming. Here's how this plays out in real life. When a Japanese child brings home a good test score, a typical parent might say, "You worked very hard on this. I noticed you studying every evening. That dedication is important." Notice what's happening here. The focus is on the effort, the process, and the character development, not the outcome or the prize. Western parents often say, "Great job, since you got an A, let's go get ice cream." Seems innocent, right? But we've just taught the child that the value of their effort is measured in dessert. Dr. Makoto Shichida, a renowned Japanese early childhood educator, conducted a 20-year study tracking children raised with reward systems versus those raised with recognition-based encouragement. The results were stunning. Children in the recognition group showed 73% higher intrinsic motivation by age 12 and were significantly more likely to pursue challenging tasks without external incentives. Here's a personal story that illustrates this perfectly. I interviewed a Japanese mother named Yuki, who told me about her daughter's piano practice. In the beginning, her daughter hated it. Yuki never once offered rewards for practicing. Instead, she would sit nearby and occasionally comment, "That melody is becoming smoother. Your fingers are remembering." After 6 months, her daughter started practicing without being asked. Why? Because the recognition of her progress became more satisfying than any sticker chart could ever be. The magic formula. Notice the effort, name the character trait, skip the prize. Do those 3 things, and you create intrinsic motivation. But you know what's crazy? This is just the foundation. The real transformation happens when you understand the next principle. Gambaru, the power of persistent effort over outcome. Let me introduce you to another Japanese concept that's absolutely critical. Gambaru. It means to persist, to do your best, or to keep going even when it's hard. And Japanese parents use this word constantly, but not in the way you might think. They don't say Gambaru when their kid wins the soccer game. They say it when their kid is struggling, when they're tired, when they want to quit. It's encouragement to embrace the challenge, not to chase the trophy. Western culture celebrates outcomes. The A+, the championship trophy, the first place ribbon. Japanese culture celebrates the struggle itself. There's actual honor in trying hard, even if you fail. Especially if you fail, because that's where real growth happens. Here's a mind-blowing stat. In a study comparing American and Japanese students, researchers found that when faced with a difficult puzzle, American students spent an average of 9 minutes before giving up, while Japanese students persisted for an average of 23 minutes. The Japanese kids weren't smarter. They had been culturally conditioned to find value in the effort itself, not just the solution. This is why you'll rarely hear Japanese parents say, "You're so smart." Instead, they'll say things like, "You didn't give up. That shows strong character." "You tried a new approach. That's good thinking." "This is difficult, and you kept going. That's real strength." You know what's hilarious? We Westerners have created an entire industry of participation trophies trying to boost self-esteem, while Japanese kids are literally scrubbing toilets at school and somehow developing better self-confidence. The irony is almost painful. The difference? Japanese. Children's confidence comes from competence and contribution, not from artificial praise or rewards. Parenting shift. Stop praising talent. Start honoring effort. Stop rewarding completion. Start recognizing persistence. And speaking of contribution, this next section reveals something that most Western parents have completely forgotten. Quick thing, if this is opening your eyes to a completely different way of parenting, do me a favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps more parents discover this content, and honestly, this information needs to spread. Also, hit subscribe and ring that bell because I'm diving deep into Japanese parenting methods that most people have never heard about. Trust me, what's coming next will blow your mind. Now back to the method. Contributing to the family. The antidote to entitlement. Here's where Japanese parenting gets really radical. Children are expected to contribute to the family without compensation because they're part of the family. In traditional Japanese households, even toddlers have responsibilities. A 3-year-old might help sort laundry. A 5-year-old sets the table. A 7-year-old helps prepare simple parts of meals. And they don't get allowance for this. They don't earn screen time. They contribute because that's what family members do for each other. Compare this to Western homes where we've created these elaborate chore charts with points, stars, and monetary rewards. We've accidentally taught our kids that family contribution is optional, something you do only if compensated. The result? An epidemic of entitlement. I talked to Dr. Haruki Nakamura, a child psychologist in Tokyo, who explained it this way. When you pay a child to help with dishes, you teach them that kindness has a price. When you expect contribution without payment, you teach them that being part of a community means giving without expecting something in return. This is huge. Japanese children develop what psychologists call prosocial behavior, the natural inclination to help others, because helping isn't transactional, it's relational. There's a beautiful Japanese proverb, okage samade, which roughly means, I am what I am because of you. It's the recognition that we exist in a web of mutual support. When children contribute to the household, they're not doing chores. They're practicing interdependence. Let me paint you a picture. In a typical American home, Saturday morning might sound like this. If you clean your room and do the dishes, you can have your iPad for an hour. In a Japanese home, it sounds more like, today we're preparing the house for grandmother's visit. You'll help with the entrance area. No negotiation, no reward, just participation in family life. The long-term result? Studies show that Japanese young adults report significantly higher levels of family connection and significantly lower levels of entitlement compared to their Western counterparts. But here's what really makes this work, and it's something most people completely miss. Modeling over lecturing, the silent power of example. Japanese parents have a saying, the parent's back teaches more than their mouth. Meaning, children learn more from watching what you do than from hearing what you say. This is where Western parenting often falls apart. We reward our kids for reading while we're scrolling TikTok. We give them money for exercise while we sit on the couch. We lecture about respect while we're rude to service workers. Kids aren't stupid, they see the hypocrisy. Japanese parents take a different approach. Embody the values you want to instill. If you want your child to read, they need to see you reading. If you want them to help around the house, they need to see you cleaning without complaint. If you want them to persist through difficulty, they need to watch you tackle your own challenges with Gambaru spirit. There's actually a formal concept for this called Miru Manabu, learning by watching. In traditional Japanese apprenticeships, masters rarely explain techniques verbally. Apprentices watch, imitate, and gradually absorb the skill through observation and practice. This same principle applies to parenting. I witnessed this firsthand when I visited a Japanese family. The father came home exhausted from work, but without a word of complaint, he helped his daughter with her math homework, then quietly washed the dishes while the mother folded laundry. The kids? They absorbed that work ethic like sponges. No lectures needed, no reward charts required, just consistent modeling. Uncomfortable truth. If your kids are unmotivated, look at your own behavior first. Are you modeling the persistence and contribution you expect from them? Western parents often outsource character development to reward systems because it's easier than doing the hard work of self-improvement. But Japanese culture says you can't give what you don't have. Want disciplined kids? Become disciplined yourself. Now, here's the part that ties everything together and makes this whole system actually work in real life. Natural consequences instead of punishments and rewards. So if Japanese parents aren't using rewards for good behavior, what are they using for bad behavior? Certainly not punishment charts or taking away privileges in the traditional sense. Instead, they rely on something far more powerful, natural consequences. Here's how it works. If a child forgets their homework at home, the Japanese parent doesn't rush to school to deliver it. The child experiences the natural consequence, embarrassment, a lower grade, a conversation with the teacher. That discomfort teaches responsibility far better than any punishment could. If a child refuses to help clean up after dinner, they might find that the family moves on to a pleasant evening activity while they're still stuck with the mess. No yelling, no timeout, just the natural consequence of their choice. Western parents tend to shield children from discomfort, then wonder why they don't learn. We bring the forgotten lunch to school. We do the science project at the last minute. We negotiate and reward and punish, all while preventing the child from experiencing the natural feedback loop that teaches genuine responsibility. Dr. Rudolf Dreikurs, who studied discipline methods globally, found that children who experienced natural consequences developed internal locus of control, the belief that their choices directly affect their outcomes, at rates 68% higher than children raised with punishment and reward systems. The principle: let reality be the teacher. Your job isn't to control outcomes, it's to help your child learn from them. But here's what makes this truly sustainable for the long term. Western parenting is obsessed with immediate compliance. We want kids to behave right now, so we pull out rewards and punishments like tools in a toolbox. Japanese parenting plays a longer game. They're building character that will last a lifetime, even if it means tolerating some messiness in the short term. There's a Japanese term, ikuji, that means child rearing, but it literally translates to nurturing the child's essence. The focus isn't on controlling behavior, it's on cultivating the kind of person the child is becoming. When a Japanese child makes a mistake, the conversation isn't "you're grounded" or "no dessert for you." It's more like, what kind of person do you want to be? How does this choice reflect that? They're constantly connecting daily decisions to long-term identity. I love this example. A Japanese teacher once told me about a student who cheated on a test. Instead of punishment, the teacher had a private conversation. You're a person who values honesty. This choice doesn't match who you are. What happened? The student broke down crying, not from fear of punishment, but from the dissonance between their actions and their identity. That's the power of focusing on character over behavior. Behavior modification is temporary. Character development is permanent. The research backs this up. Longitudinal studies following children into adulthood found that those raised with character-focused parenting, common in Japan, showed significantly higher ethical decision-making, career satisfaction, and relationship stability compared to those raised with behavior-focused reward systems. The shift. Stop asking, "How do I make my child behave?" Start asking, "How do I help my child become someone who naturally chooses good behavior?" And this brings us to the final piece, the one that makes everything sustainable. The role of community and collective responsibility. Here's something that might surprise you. Japanese parents don't do this alone. The entire community, teachers, neighbors, extended family, reinforces these same values. There's a collective understanding that raising children is everyone's responsibility. In Japan, if a child misbehaves in public, it's not uncommon for a stranger to gently correct them. And parents don't get defensive. They're grateful for the support. There's a proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." But Japanese culture actually lives this out. Schools reinforce family values, neighbors model community responsibility, even children's media promotes cooperation over competition, contribution over consumption. The whole society is aligned around developing character, not rewarding performance. Western parents, by contrast, are often isolated. We're trying to implement reward charts in a vacuum while the rest of society is screaming, "You deserve it," and "treat yourself" at our kids through every advertisement. No wonder it's exhausting. The truth? Parenting methods work best when supported by community culture. If you're trying the Japanese approach, find or create a community of like-minded parents who share these values. So here's what we've uncovered. Stop rewarding kids for what should be Atarimae, naturally expected. Replace rewards with recognition of effort and character. Embrace Gambaru, the value of persistent struggle. Expect contribution without compensation. Model the behavior you want to see. Let natural consequences teach. Focus on long-term character, not short-term compliance, and build community support around these values. The Japanese method isn't about being strict or cold. It's about respecting your child enough to believe they can develop internal motivation without bribes. It's about raising humans who do the right thing because it aligns with who they are, not because of what they'll get. Now I'm curious, which approach resonates more with you? Recognition of effort or letting natural consequences teach? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in what speaks to your parenting style. If this video opened your eyes to a completely different way of thinking about motivation, Hit that like button and subscribe because there's so much more to explore. And definitely turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming. Speaking of morning routines and discipline, in my next video, I'm revealing the exact Japanese morning routine that teaches kids self-discipline without constant nagging or rewards. Trust me, it's a game changer that starts the entire day differently. The first practice will shock you. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best gift you can give your child isn't a reward. It's the character to choose well even when no one's watching.